My brother looked me dead in the eye and said, "You owe me your bonus. I've got mouths to feed." And to my disbelief, my parents backed him up like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. I didn't argue. I just quietly moved my savings out of reach. So when he came back the next month looking for more, I was already a step ahead. Truth is, I'd always known Mark was reckless. He never held a steady job, never stuck with anything long enough to make it work. Somehow, he always had an excuse lined up, a reason why someone else needed to pick up the slack. And every single time, my parents looked the other way. To them, Mark wasn't careless, he was just down on his luck. Misunderstood. Going through a rough patch. Meanwhile, I was the dependable one. The son who stayed in line, who kept his head down, worked late, paid his bills, and never asked for help. That difference in treatment shaped how they viewed money in the family. If I was doing okay, then it meant I should help. No questions asked. That mindset had been carved into the family code for as long as I could remember. Like the time I wired over cash when Mark's car broke down. Or when I paid his rent during yet another one of his between-job stretches. Or those grocery runs I picked up when he blew through whatever money he had left. I never wanted to do it, not once, but my parents were pros at guilt-tripping me into giving in. "He's got kids," they'd say. "You don't want your niece and nephew to go hungry, do you?" So when my company gave me a bonus last month, I braced myself for the usual story. What I didn't expect was Mark showing up at my front door, strolling into my kitchen like he owned the place, and saying point blank, "You owe me that bonus." I stared at him for a second, caught off guard. "Come again?" I asked. He leaned back in the chair, all casual, like he was asking for a glass of water. "Look, man," he said, "I've got a family to take care of." Then he added, "You're single. No kids. You don't really need that money like I do." I had to remind myself to breathe. Did he really just say that? My mom, who had tagged along like some sort of emotional support squad, gently placed her hand on his arm, like he was the one being wronged here. "He's just saying, sweetie," she said in that gentle but judgy tone. "You're doing well, and Mark's having a hard time." "You think I owe you my bonus?" I asked, keeping my voice calm, even though my chest was tight with disbelief. Mark shrugged like it was no big deal. "Come on, it's not like you worked extra hard for it. It's just bonus money." Then came the kicker. "And we're family. Family helps each other out." I looked at him. Then at my mother, who was nodding in approval, giving me that familiar disappointed look like I was the villain for not immediately opening my wallet. Something in me shifted right then. I wasn't going to cave this time. I laced my fingers together on the table, took a breath, and let it out slow. "No." Mark blinked. "What?" I said no, I repeated. And to be honest, it felt strangely good. Like standing up for myself had weight to it for once. My mother gasped, like I'd just told them I was cutting all ties with the family. "You don't mean that," she said, voice shaking. "He's your brother. He needs help. Don't be selfish." There it was. That word. Selfish. Their go-to whenever I dared to set a boundary. Mark leaned forward, arms crossed like some wannabe tough guy. "Come on, man. It's just money." I actually almost laughed. Just money. That's rich, coming from the guy who never earned any of his own. If it was really just money, why didn't he go out and make some? Why wasn't he saving? Why was I expected to bankroll his laziness like I was a walking ATM? "I work for my money," I said flatly. "And I'm done handing it over just because you don't feel like handling your own business." Mark rolled his eyes. "Wow. Real nice. My kids could go hungry." "You don't seem too concerned about them when you're out partying every weekend," I snapped back. That hit a nerve. His face darkened and his jaw tensed. My mom's eyes widened like I'd said something unforgivable. "You don't have kids," she said sharply. "You don't know what that responsibility is like. That's why it's your job to help." I stared at her, waiting for her to hear how ridiculous that sounded. So because I don't have children, it's somehow my responsibility to take care of hers? She waved a hand like she was brushing off the logic. You know what I mean. It's easier for you. You've got extra. I clenched my jaw. You mean my money? The money I earned. That bonus was for me, and I'm keeping it. Silence. Mark glared. My mom looked at me like I'd just failed some moral test. I'm ashamed of you, she whispered. Those words used to cut deep. But this time? They felt empty. Like someone reading lines from a tired old play. Because right then, something clicked. I'd spent years trying to earn their respect, being the good son, the reliable one. But it had never been about respect. They didn't value me for that. They just expected it. Expected me to keep giving. I stood up. That's too bad, I said, grabbing their coats and handing them over. Because I'm not changing my mind. This conversation's over. Mark ripped the coat from my hand. You think you're better than me? I held his gaze. Calm. Steady. No. I just believe I deserve to keep what I've worked for. My mom snatched her purse and shook her head as she marched to the door. You'll regret this, she muttered. Family should always come first. I watched the door shut behind them. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. The quiet after they left hung heavy at first. I thought I'd be second-guessing everything. Feeling that old familiar shame, like I'd done something wrong. That was the pattern. Mark would ask. My parents would push. And in the end, I'd cave. But not this time. This time, I broke the cycle. And I felt relieved. At least, for a couple of days. Then the calls started rolling in. Family helps family, right? That's what my dad said on the phone, like it was some sort of moral mic drop. Exactly, I replied, calm as ever. So why aren't you helping Mark? Silence. Thick and awkward. What? He asked, clearly caught off guard. I didn't let up. If it's my job as Mark's brother, then isn't it your job as his father? Or does that only apply when you're talking to me? More silence. Then, click. He hung up. I let out a dry laugh, shaking my head. Classic. My parents were only big on family responsibility when it meant mine. Their idea of fairness was always tilted toward Mark. But I wasn't naive. I knew this wasn't the end of it. People like my brother and my parents didn't just accept being told no. They pushed harder. Manipulated. And when that didn't work, they leveled up. I figured something was coming. I just didn't realize how far they'd go. For a few days, everything went quiet. No texts from Mark. No guilt-tripping voicemails from my mom. No surprise visits to my doorstep. Part of me hoped, stupidly, that maybe they were done. Maybe they'd backed off. I should have known better. That Saturday morning, my phone lit up with a call from Aunt Karen. Now, I hadn't spoken to her in a while, so I almost let it ring out. But something told me this wasn't a social call. Hey, Aunt Karen, I answered cautiously. Are you okay? She asked, right off the bat. No hello, no small talk. I frowned. Yeah. Why? She sighed. Your mother called me. Of course she did. She said you've been acting strange lately. That you've been isolating yourself, pushing the family away, and making reckless financial choices. I closed my eyes and took a slow, steady breath. She told you I was losing it? I asked, already knowing the answer. She's worried about you, Karen continued. Said maybe you weren't thinking clearly. Well, she was afraid you might do something drastic. I nearly spit out my coffee. Wait. You think I'm She made it sound like you were having some kind of breakdown, Karen said hesitantly. Like maybe you were depressed, or... I groaned. Let me guess. She said I suddenly stopped answering calls, turned cold, and refused to help Mark's kids? Silence. Then my aunt muttered, so she did lie. I could practically hear her rolling her eyes through the phone. That woman, she said under her breath. I knew something was off. I told her it sounded more like you were finally setting boundaries. I chuckled. And how did that go over? She got defensive, Karen replied. Said, well, we're his parents. We're allowed to be disappointed. I sighed. Karen, I appreciate you checking in. But I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than fine. I just decided I'm not their personal ATM anymore. Well, she said with a quiet laugh, it's about damn time someone did. But she wasn't done. You know they're not going to stop, right? I knew. And deep down, I had a feeling they were gearing up for the next round. After that conversation, it was obvious, guilt and gossip hadn't worked. So they were going to up the ante. And boy, did they. The very next day, I got a text from my cousin Daniel. Daniel, hey man, what's this about you refusing to help Mark's kids? I stared at the screen and sighed. Here we go. Me, what exactly did they tell you? Daniel, that you got some big bonus and refused to share, even though Mark's struggling. That your parents are heartbroken. They're saying you've changed. That you're selfish now. Daniel, honestly, sounds messed up. I rubbed my temples. They were pulling out all the stops now. Me, let me clear this up. I earned that bonus after months of hard work. Mark didn't ask for help, he demanded the entire thing. And when I said no, my parents acted like I was a monster. There was a pause. Then Daniel responded. Daniel, yeah, that actually sounds more like them than what they told me. That made me blink. Me, wait, what exactly did they say? Daniel, that you told them you didn't care if Mark's kids starved. I barked out a short, bitter laugh. Are you serious? Daniel, dude. They were practically crying about it. Unreal. They weren't just twisting things anymore. They were flat out lying, painting me like I was some cold-hearted villain abandoning helpless children. But that wasn't even the lowest blow. Because the very next day, my boss called. Hey, he said casually, just wanted to check in. Everything okay? My stomach tightened. Yeah. Why? Well, he hesitated, someone called HR. An anonymous tip. Said you might be under financial stress. That you could be making reckless decisions. Maybe affecting your performance. I felt my whole body tense up. Wait. What? Yeah, he said. They didn't give a name. But, it came off personal. Like family drama. I clenched my jaw. I knew exactly who it was. Look, I told him. I have a very good guess who made that call. I'm fine. It's a family thing. I didn't give them what they wanted, so now they're trying to make me look unstable. There was a pause, then my boss chuckled. Yeah, I figured as much. You're good, don't worry. Just wanted to check. I thanked him, but the second I hung up, that calm vanished. I wasn't just annoyed anymore, I was furious. They weren't just trying to guilt-trip me. Now they were trying to ruin me. Threaten my livelihood. My reputation. That was the last straw. They wanted a war? Fine. I was done playing defense. I spent the next hour locking everything down. Transferred all my savings to a new account. Removed them from my emergency contacts. Blocked my parents. Blocked Mark. I even set up alerts in case they tried to pull something shady with my credit. And when I was done, I just sat there, quiet. For the first time in years, they couldn't touch me. They couldn't guilt me. couldn't manipulate me. I finally felt free. Or, at least I thought I was. Because exactly 1 month later, I heard a knock on my door. Late at night. I wasn't expecting anyone, but I had a gut feeling. And sure enough, when I opened the door, there stood Mark. Right there on my porch, arms crossed, with that same bitter look he always wore when things didn't go his way. "What do you want?" I asked, already drained. He scoffed. "Seriously? That's how you greet your own brother?" I folded my arms. "Considering the last time we spoke, you tried to shake me down for my bonus, and our parents nearly cost me my job?" "Yeah. That's exactly how I greet you." He rolled his eyes. "Whatever, man. Look, I just came to talk." "About what?" He hesitated, then sighed. "I need help." I let out a short, cold laugh. "Of course you do. My landlord's kicking us out," he said, shifting awkwardly. "I just need a loan to." "No." His head snapped up. "You didn't even let me finish." "Because I don't need to." I kept my voice calm and steady. "The answer's no." Mark's jaw tightened. "That's it," he snapped. "You're really gonna let your own niece and nephew end up on the street?" I looked him dead in the eye. "No, Mark. You are. You had chance after chance to pull yourself together. But instead of owning your mess, you just kept counting on me to clean it up." His face twisted into that familiar mix of rage and wounded pride. "You're such a selfish," but I didn't let him finish. I shut the door right in his face. He pounded on it once, maybe twice, but I didn't move. A few seconds later, I heard his footsteps stomping down the walkway. I let out a breath I hadn't even realized I was holding. That was it. I was done. Or at least, I thought I was. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I knew better than to answer, but I still did. "So this is what it's come to?" My mother's voice hit me like a cold slap, sharp, laced with that fake heartbreak she always used when she wanted to guilt me. "Slamming the door on your own brother? Turning your back on your family?" I sighed. "Let me guess. Mark came crying to you already?" "Do not be disrespectful," she snapped. "Your brother needed help, and you treated him like a stranger." I kept my tone flat. "That's funny, because that's exactly what he is to me now." Silence. Then she shifted into her next act. "Honey, listen," she said, suddenly soft and sugary sweet. "I know we've had our differences. But we're still your family. We raised you. We love you. But this cruelty, it's not you. What happened to my kind, generous son?" I closed my eyes. I knew this playbook inside and out. The "we're still your family" speech. The "we raised you" guilt trip. The "what happened to you" routine, as if I was the one who'd changed instead of just finally waking up. I wasn't buying it anymore. "You really want to know what happened to me?" I said, keeping my voice even. "I got tired." "Tired," she repeated, like she couldn't fathom the word. "Yeah. Tired of being the fallback. Tired of being treated like a wallet instead of a son. Tired of the only time you or Dad calling me being when you needed something. Tired of Mark acting like my paycheck belongs to him just because he started a family he can't afford." Her tone turned to ice. "You should be ashamed of yourself." "No," I said firmly. "You should." And I hung up. For the first time, I didn't feel a shred of guilt. I braced myself for the flood, more calls, angry texts, maybe even another doorstep ambush. But after that call with my mom? Nothing. Days passed. Then a week. Then 2. Silence. At first, I didn't trust it. This was my family we were talking about. Guilt tripping was their love language. They didn't let go unless they were sure they'd won. But this? This was a new tactic. they were waiting me out. Waiting for me to break. Waiting for me to come crawling back, saying, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Of course I'll help." Because that's what I'd always done before. But not this time. Instead, I focused on my own life. For once, my paycheck actually lasted through the end of the month. I bought stuff for me without second guessing. I started planning a vacation, one I wouldn't have to cancel because someone else had a family emergency. And the wildest part? I felt lighter. Like I'd been carrying some invisible weight on my back for years, and only now realized I could finally stand tall. 3 weeks after Mark showed up at my door, I got a text from Aunt Karen. "Aunt Karen, haven't heard from you in a while. How are you holding up?" I smiled. She was one of the few who actually listened. Never pressured me. Never crossed my boundaries. Me, honestly? Pretty good. Aunt Karen, glad to hear it. Just a heads up, your parents are telling everyone you're going through something and that you'll come around soon. I chuckled. Of course they were. Because in their minds, I was the one who had to crack. I was the one who needed to come around. That was the only way the cycle had ever worked. But not anymore. I was done. For good. A whole month of peace went by. A month of keeping my money. Living my life. No crises. No guilt. No more putting out fires I didn't start. Then, one evening, just as I was settling into the couch with a cold beer and a good movie, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something told me to answer. "Hello?" A small, unsteady voice replied. "Hey, it's me." It was Mark. I sat there, just holding the phone. The last time we spoke, he was pounding on my door, full of fury. Now. He sounded empty. "I know you don't want to hear from me," he said. But I didn't know who else to call. I exhaled. "What happened?" Sarah laughed. "Took the kids." That caught me off guard. She said she's done, he admitted. Said she's tired of me never stepping up. Of always expecting other people to fix things for me. I stayed quiet. "I think she's right," he said, voice barely above a whisper. I screwed up. I always thought someone would help me. That you would. He paused. "I don't blame you for cutting me off. I wanted to say I'm sorry." For the first time in years, he wasn't demanding. Wasn't guilt-tripping. Wasn't trying to spin the story. He was just honest. And because of that, I said something I never thought I would. "I hope you get your life together, Mark." He let out a tired laugh. Me too. For once, I wasn't talking to the reckless, entitled brother I'd spent years cleaning up after. I was talking to someone who finally saw the mess he'd made. And that? That was something I could respect. But still. I wasn't going to fix it for him. "Take care of yourself," I said. And before he could slip back into old habits, I hung up. That was the final test. And I passed. The cycle was broken. And I wasn't ever going back.